Good afternoon. In this video, I'm going to show you how to bring in some line art, that way something that you've sketched out, and how you can color that in Photoshop. Now, the first step really and most likely that you're going to have is to probably take a picture of your artwork, and if you're doing that with your iPad, um, I don't know if you have a lot of control over the settings. Mine, bringing it in with a resolution of 72. So it's not going to be super sharp for being able to print out a really good version of it, but for our digital sharing, it's going to be perfect for that. So what I had done was take a photograph of some line art I did. It's a fashion pose. I did not color it in, just used a dark pencil to do that, or you can go back over with your black pens to darken it up a little bit more. And I'll show you how you can kind of clean it up and then begin to color it in. So we are going to open a file. I do have some practice ones on my course connection. They're fashion pose and such. Let's see, line art is what my file name is right now. And there is a picture of it. So everything's kind of a line drawing. I used a croquis for my body pose, and then I drew the dress over the top. Now, a couple things that we can do to clean this up. One, I don't want to see my carpet in the background here. So what I can do is go ahead and crop my image. And I can just, when I click on my crop tool over here, it gives me borders that I can pull in from sides and top to clean up the edges and things so that I'm focused on my figure right here. I'm going to check mark, yes, that's done. And now we can make some adjustments that are going to brighten this up a little bit. Let's see, here's our layer. I'm going to just double click, call this my line art on my background layer. Now it is unlocked. And I'm going to go ahead and use my adjustment layers at this point because maybe I want to change these a little bit, but my first one I'm going to work with is brightness contrast. I'm going to brighten up my page some, and I'm going to turn up my contrast so that I've got some stronger pencil lines. That's where a lot of times my down to a little bit there. That's where actually going over it with black pen works nicely as well to kind of clean things up. Alright, and back over here, and you can see that that's a brightness contrast. And I'm going to do one more, which is threshold, which once I've brightened up my page, now when I do threshold, you can see it picked up on some of my pencil lines, but because they aren't super dark, it didn't get a whole lot. But I can kind of turn this up a little bit. There we go. And what the threshold does is takes that information and brings it just to a very high changes it to very stark black and white pixels. But I can turn that down just a bit. I guess not with my threshold. Not too much there. Okay. I guess it didn't really affect a change on that. But that's a good place that we can start with. I'm going to work with that. The main thing I wanted to show you here is how to bring in some color. Now I've liked the changes I went ahead and made to my line art, so I can compact all three of these and flatten my image, making now my background image this. I'll double click on it, again call it my line art, click OK. So I've really darkened this up. Now let's work a little bit with painting in some color. Now these did go with some pretty thick lines, but we can work with that. The files on my course connection have a much cleaner line to them. All right, that's an old paintbrush I used. I want to come over here and I'm going to use just a good solid fill one here real quick. And I'll have the ability to change that with my brackets keys on my keyboard. The next thing I want to set is kind of a flesh tone. Let's see if I just got it over here in swatches. Somewhat of a flesh tone. There we go. We'll go with that. Now I don't want to do this on my line art. This is where you got to make sure you catch yourself before you get too far. I do need a new layer, and I'm going to call this layer skin. All right. Now this layer I want to change to what's called a multiply mode right here. And so that when I actually begin to paint with it, with my paintbrush up onto this skin layer, when I'm in multiply mode, it will bring in or allow the dark lines from line art to show through. And actually I'm going to undo both of those steps. Let's see, can I go step back one more? There we go. Up here, my opacity, this time I'm going to go ahead and turn it all the way up. Even though I'm on my multiply, and it is darkening it, but we can always come back in and clean that up. Now, this is where I kind of do like the forgiveness of Photoshop. Notice how I'm not worrying about the lines or getting outside the lines too much, because I can come in and quickly lay in some art, and then I can actually use my eraser if I want to, or not if I want to, I will, and then I can come in and clean up around edges. And playing with my brush sizes allows me to get into areas that are smaller or larger ones, then that way I can paint it fairly quickly. I need to watch some of my time here as I do this. I will warn you, this does take some time. I've been trying to tell you all throughout this class in my lectures that you need to make sure you've set aside the time. Now, if I go inside that, no big deal. I go back to my brush. I just use my keyboard shortcut B for brush, and I can go E for eraser back and forth, and that way it saves me time having to go slide my cursor all the way over to the side of the page here. And if I'm a little cleaner or in control as I paint, then I don't have so much of this hanging out the sides of my piece here. And I'm keeping this as a very rough kind of drawing. It's fine to do that. I don't have to get all the way at the edges, but if I do go outside the edges, it's okay. I can clean it up. All right. Now I'm going to do something here too. Let's see. You can select all of these areas that have this kind of skin tone to them. Let's say I want to kind of lighten that. Well, I've double clicked on it to lighten it. Now what I can use is my paint bucket tool, which will be behind my gradient tool, paint bucket, and with those selected I can click on those areas, and I'm going to lighten her up just a little bit because I kind of thought that was a little dark there. All right. Now, the next thing I want to show you, this is where I really find it fun to work with Photoshop. And I thought I had done a better job of cleaning these up here. Or maybe when I was selecting things, it actually selected outside these lines. All right. And it's a tool called Dodge and Burn. These are terms used from photography darkrooms, and this is what they would do to negatives of a film to develop them. You dodge and burn. So the burn will darken pixels, and dodge will lighten them. So let's go over here. These are our dodge and burn tools. I'm going to dodge first. And I need to make sure I'm on the skin layer. That's the one I was working with. I can use my brackets, and dodge is going to darken them. So these would be my shadow areas. And I just click and drag. And notice that it's darkening some of my pixels as I go. Let's see, underneath the chin she'll be having more shadow. Over in cleavage area she'll have some. Now I can actually change my exposure up here if I'm getting really dark colors too quickly. Here, under the arms, I can expand it and even lighten up my exposure to get wider areas if I wanted, darken my exposure if I need to. But can you see how it really allows a great way to bring in the shading that we just can't seem to do as easily with markers. We just don't have that many colors. Colored pencils sometimes were a little tough, maybe getting this nice soft blend through here. All right, so and what's nice about this, being that you're on a separate layer, you're going to allow all your artwork to show through. All right, let's create another layer real quick over here. A new one on top, and you always have to make sure you're on those layers that you want to apply your colors onto. All right, so I'm on the dress layer. This time I want to paint my dress. I'm going to use my brush. There we go, and I'm going to go ahead and make it a blue dress for fun here. And I'm over the skin. Oh yeah, and tell you what, let me show you here. Notice if you start doing this and you're like, oh no, I can't see my blue lines. Don't worry, it's just the mode. We're in a normal mode, meaning you're not going to be able to see through it. We want to go to multiply. Multiply allows those to show through. Now we're above the skin, so it does kind of darken over the skin, but when I get my eraser tool out, I can erase on the dress layer, but I am not affecting any of my pixels on the skin layer. Okay, do you see how that's working? Nice. There we go. And probably need to go a little bit smaller bit in here. Here. Now I can go back to my brush, which was B on my keyboard. And again, bit smaller areas. And I would do a layer for each of my hair, maybe facial features separately, and so on. Let's clean this up. Now then, the dodge and burn tool again, real quick. Let's go to dodge. As I'm working on a layer, I may even want to turn this up a little bit. Some pixels you're going to see it change right away. Others, I'm having to click and drag a few times here to really get it to show up on darkening these pixels. So it really depends on the pixels you have at that time, or what pixels you're trying to affect. So over here. Now that's the dodge. I'm sorry, the burn tool. The dodge tool actually lightens pixels. I'm trying to kind of lighten up a little bit across the top here of the dress. Let's go back to our skin real quick and lighten up some of the pixels on kind of the higher collarbone area. There we go. We usually will have one right on our shoulder, a little bit lighter. You can come through and play with some of these areas. About to run out of time, so let's just hit one more. Looks like I am out of time. Oh, that was Photoshop. So I can click and highlight some other areas as I like and darken with the burn tool. So dodge is lighten, burn is darken. There we go. And you can kind of see, have fun with playing around with it. Send me what you got.